it's so important to mind your mind, because this business is, I like to say, it's part mindset, part mechanics, right?
Yeah.
And they both have to be functioning, tip-top for you to have success.
Well, hey there, and welcome to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I'm your host, Sam Hind, and I am honored and privileged that you chose this time out of your day to spend with us on this podcast. And you've picked a great episode to be a part of. Today, I'm going to be introducing you to a very special guest and an amazingly incredible woman who has been both a trailblazer in this industry, in the network marketing industry, but she's also now, I am jealous to say, a best-selling author, something that's always been on my to-do list and I've never got around to it. This incredible woman, Donna Weiser, has gone out there, chased down dreams and done some incredible things. With over 30 years of experience in the network marketing industry, she is an executive national vice president of Arbonne. And she has built an incredible business that has served her family. However, Donna tells the story about how she got started in this industry and what it looked like to grow the business that she has today. I asked her to share some strategies, tips, and tricks that our listeners, you, could take from this episode and apply in your business straight away, and she did that in spades. So if I'm going to give you one piece of advice, it is to do two things today. Number one, definitely grab a copy of her book, So You Said Yes. She's going to tell you a little bit about it in the episode because she shares a lot of her affirmations that she's going to talk about. She shares her strategies for growing a successful business. But number two, get yourself a pen and piece of paper before I kick on into this episode, because I can guarantee you are going to want to write some of these amazing golden nuggets down. But just remember this, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to repeat it again in this episode. I can't say this enough. Knowledge isn't power. It's only potential power. It's not until we apply that knowledge that we get to see the growth and the change and the results from that knowledge. So that's it from me. I'm going to hand over now to the interview with the beautiful Donna Weiser. I hope you enjoy. Make sure, of course, you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes. Over to Donna. Well, hello there and welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast, and welcome, Donna. It is so amazing to have you with us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Look, I think the pleasure here is all mine. I'm really excited to hear a little bit about your journey, but specifically, I know you've got so much knowledge and so much wisdom from over 30 years in this industry to share today. So how about we start with that? So Donna, I know that you've got a couple of hats on here. You are, just for our listeners, for their benefit, an executive national vice president with Arbonne. You've been one of the top 25 highest earners in the company. And, most people will have heard of Arbonne. It's, I know, global. It's in Australia. It's in the US. It's all over. So most of our listeners will be familiar with it. But more importantly, and what we want to talk about today, is that you've taken your experience and your knowledge to help other people, and you have just published a book, which is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It really was, believe it or not, it wasn't my idea. I know we have a mutual friend, Richard Brooke. It was actually Richard, it was his brainchild when I was at a retreat with him. And it took me quite some time to write the book because, as you know, if you've been in a business like this, going on 33 years, there's so many things I could share with people who are just getting started. And that was my purpose. So I sat down and I really thought long and hard, what can I share with people? And that's how the book came to be.
Well, let's go back a little step here. I'd love for you to share with our listeners a little bit about your story. You've over 30 years in the industry. Do you want to fill us in and just share with our listeners a little bit about you, Donna?
Sure. So I certainly wasn't looking for a network marketing company, as most of us aren't. That's my experience. I had two kids at the time. They were 6 years old and 9 years old. I was pursuing a master's in business at a university here in Southern California. I was a camp director. I was a bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah tutor. I'd just gotten an agent because I was pursuing an acting career, but I was struggling with a way to put my kids in private school. And by way of the product, which is how many of us are introduced to our network marketing businesses, I was introduced to a skincare product that cleared up my adult acne. And they told me that there was an income option attached to the product. And I said, no, 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 that's not for me. I'm going to graduate school. I'm going to have a master's in business soon. But because the products worked, I decided to take a look at this income option that they talked about. And that's how I decided to jump in, because the products worked. And I think that's really important for those of us in this industry. We're passionate about our products because the products work. And that's when you have a chance to offer someone an income option if they love the product.
Yeah, I love that. So 30 years on, I'm keen to kind of dive in and hear a little bit about that journey from you. But what is it about the direct selling industry that you're so passionate about? Why are you such an advocate for the industry? Because I know it's not just about growing your team. It's not just a personal growth thing. It's also about, well, I want to hear from you. What else is it about? Why are you so passionate about this industry?
Well, this is an industry that can change people's lives, truly can change people's lives. And there's so many other opportunities that people have, or other jobs or businesses that don't necessarily change their lives. They could perhaps bring them an income, but it doesn't give them the community, it doesn't give them the relationships, it doesn't give them the opportunity for the personal development and leadership. I love the fact that we have a level playing field, that whatever your background is, educational background, whatever your socioeconomic background is, doesn't matter, man, woman, whoever you are, you can build a business within network marketing if you're willing to be coachable, follow the leader, if you will. That's why I love this industry so much, because I've seen so many lives change, including my own, because I jumped in and I was coachable.
Yeah. That's a really big thing, isn't it? And it's actually one of the things, honestly, that struck me so much about you was you've had all of this experience. You've been, highly, highly successful in this industry. And yet, when I did a little bit more digging, a little bit more research, one of the things that I noticed is you're constantly reading, you're constantly growing, you're constantly learning. You've always got a mentor or a coach. You're someone who is also very teachable, and you don't sort of sit back and go, well, I know everything I need to know. Now I'll teach everybody else. You're constantly feeding yourself. And I think that's such an important thing to notice. I think about a lot of the top leaders in this industry is that they remain teachable. They don't sort of get to a point and go, I know it all, and move on, right?
So true. It's interesting because if you think about the comfort zone where many people live in, like say, here's the comfort zone. And then, and for us to grow, we always have to move a little bit out of our comfort zone, a little more out of our comfort zone. And I think that's an important part of growth in any industry, but for ours, of course. So I think sometimes people believe they have to move from point A way over here, right, to get out of their comfort zone. When sometimes it's just a little bit of a step here and there, a little more of a step here to here. And that's why I love personal development. That's why I love reading and listening to coaches. And I love that because I'm always learning. It's so important for all of us to continue to learn and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And Donna, I'd love to hear, what are some of your passions outside of the direct selling industry? I notice you've got lots of interests, and I am fascinated to hear this as well.
So, well, this is a really important year for me because I'm going to be 70 in a couple of months, which is hard to believe because it just
Happy
seems like
birthday.
Thank you. This is a big one. And so as I'm approaching this milestone in this seventh decade, I play golf, and I've decided this year to be a better golfer. Again, taking lessons, talk about coachable. And it's interesting because even my coach said to me, if you don't come to the range and hit balls a few times a week, if you don't get out there on the course every day, or once a week, you're not going to get better, which is I really, can liken that to our industry. Yeah. So that's one of my passions now as well. I have two gorgeous granddaughters, so I'm really having fun with my grandkids. Yeah. I play Mahjong as a hobby. One of the things I love about our business is you can build it in the nooks and crannies. So even though I've built a phenomenal business with a huge organization, I'd love to continue to work with my team, but I also like to get out there and do other things, fundraising, being involved with charities. Yeah. It's important to me to get out there. And that's how you meet new people, as a matter of fact, because we are in the business of network marketing. We have to continue to network.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We often say your network is your net worth. And if you're not constantly building that, if you're not growing, you're shrinking, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, awesome. And you were just telling me, I find this really hard to believe because we'll be heading over to the US later on this week, and I'm packing all the snow gear and like it's hot where we are right now. This is in the middle of the hottest part of our summer and we are melting. And yet here I am packing, my biggest jumpers and jackets and all sorts of things into our suitcases to take with us. And you've just told me that you played golf in your t-shirt yesterday. So I'm wondering if I need to repack everything.
Oh gosh. Well, it's interesting because as you know, here in Los Angeles, we had horrible fires just a
Yeah.
few last month. I was actually fortunate to be in Hawaii and I missed the fires, but I have several friends who've lost their homes. It's just tragic. I'm actually going over to a friend's house tomorrow. I've been packing up so many things in my home that I don't use, I don't need to
Yeah.
bring it to her home. So the weather can always be, it's crazy here, but I understand it's going to be pouring rainy here tomorrow. So be careful. Just check the weather before you pack and
Yeah,
leave.
I think I need to do a little check, right? We'll do that. So, Donna, I'm keen to hear, the success that you've had in your business. What do you believe are some of the reasons that you personally were so successful when you entered the direct selling industry? Did it happen straight away? Was it something that there was a moment where you changed something or you did something and suddenly your business took off? What did that look like for you?
That's a great question. So I originally came in and my why was really, really big. We all say, you have to be clear on your why. When the why is big enough, the how presents itself, right?
Yeah.
My why was putting my girls in private school and I needed to hit that goal in a couple of years. So I hit the ground running. And I was someone who family and friends thought I was out of my mind to jump into a network marketing business because I dropped out of graduate school to build an Arbonne business. And friends thought I was crazy. Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care what they think. I was committed. I got it. It made sense to me when I heard about it and I understood the potential. So I was coachable. I was consistent, and that's a huge part of our business. I think when people aren't successful, many times if they take a peek at what's going on in their calendar, they're going to realize, that's why I'm not succeeding. Consistency is really important. So I was consistent and I was disciplined and I was coachable. And I didn't jump into the personal development journey immediately. I'd gotten to the level in our company called regional vice president fairly quickly within 18 months. But then I was stuck for another 8 years before I got to the top level, which is a national vice president. And I reached out to a coach. That's when I started working with coaches, Sonia Stringer, who's wonderful. She's a fabulous coach. And she taught me a really important concept that truly helped me succeed as I continue to grow. I learned how to be more and do less. I was doing too much. I was doing, which wouldn't be attractive to other people. If people looked at me going, I don't want to do that. She's working like a dog, right?
Yep.
So I learned more about the power of the mindset and affirmations and personal development. And my morning routine became really important to me, which it continues to be, meditating every morning, doing my prayers, gratitude. I know you talk about journaling as well. It's so important to mind your mind because this business is, I like to say it's part mindset, part mechanics, right?
Yeah.
And they both have to be functioning, tip top for you to have success. So I think that's, for me, it was important. I didn't have a long-term vision at first because right in front of me was I needed to make that money. But as I continued to grow and learn, I realized I had to embrace personal development because it's a huge part of succeeding in our business.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned morning routine. Was that was something that you got coached into understanding, or did you just kind of stumble across that? How did you end up establishing a good morning routine, and was it easy to do?
Well, it's funny because I originally, when I started my business, let me take a step back for a moment. I started building my Arbonne business before computers, before cell phones. The phones were attached to the wall.
Yes.
So, and if we wanted to wake up, we had an alarm clock wake us up, not Alexa. We had to, it was so different then. So
Yeah.
back in those days, because I was also involved in a 12-step program called Overeaters Anonymous, which is very similar to Alcoholics Anonymous. Food was my drug of choice at that time. And I learned then the importance of gratitude and having an attitude of gratitude. And as I started reading more personal development books, I saw that people who were successful took time to start their day with that mindset of gratitude, of journaling, of not turning on these days, electronics. So I think it was a combination of I already had some background in the power of the morning, but I did it even, I even got better at it. I listened to Mel Robbins' book, what's her book? The 5 Second Rule. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
it's one of my
And
favorite.
I love that book. And I took my my phone and I took it away from my night table. I put my alarm clock away from my night table as well, so I had to get up,
Yep.
and I forced myself to get up and to meditate. I say force myself because it wasn't natural at first,
Yep.
but I can see the difference to this day when I am not doing my morning routine of affirmations and prayer and gratitude and journaling. When I don't start my day that way, the day doesn't work as well.
Yep.
And I have an accountability partner to this day that I send a little check every day. I did it, because it makes a difference.
Yeah, I love that you're speaking my language, and the fact that you've actually gone, I need an accountability partner. I need someone that I can trust, who's going to call me to account, who's not going to be nice. You know, a partner's going to say, it's okay, you know, go easy on yourself. You've had a big week. But accountability partner is going to say, no, this is really important. You need to do it even when it's hard. So I think that's such a big thing. I just want to pull that out of there, because if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking, oh, it's really hard to establish new habits and routines and I fail at it every time. It is hard, because it's exactly what you said. It's pushing that comfort zone. It's pushing what we're used to, and it's changing ourselves. And we don't want to do, like, our natural instinctive response to that is, I don't want to change because it pushes me out of what I know. And so having someone coming alongside you that believes in you is really important, right?
So important. And by the way, my accountability partner is not someone who's in my business. It's someone who I met at my synagogue. We were like-minded. We talked about how important it was, personal development. And we meet for coffee every Saturday morning when we're both in town. And it's so nice to be with other people who are like-minded. And I think that's another
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I love our business, because we're
Yep.
working with like-minded people, and we get to pick and choose the people we work with most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the really exciting thing about it, right? Now, I do want to ask you a little question that's a little bit of a loaded question here. And I want to ask what I know a lot of our listeners think when they hear a leader come in and someone who's been highly successful in the industry, especially if they're starting out or they've stuck, they've been maybe in the industry for a while, and they're, you know, we know vast majority of people in the direct selling industry will never make more than $50 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what I want to ask you is, do you think that do you think that everyone can be successful in this industry, or does it take a very specific personality type or skill set in order to be successful?
So that's a great question. Because the truth is that we can all learn the skills. We can all learn the skills. But if we don't put those skills or things we're taught, that's why I always love the word coachable. If we don't put those into practice, we won't have success. So I think that there are some people who just, unfortunately, they're in their own way. They're stuck in their own head, and they're not willing to get out of their way to do the work. It takes work. Just like for myself, when I was in a 12-step program and I was, 50 pounds overweight, I couldn't get up and continue. I couldn't eat the way I used to eat and have the results and be thin and healthy, right? So the same thing with this business. If we're not willing to do the work, then we're not going to have success. So can everyone do this business? Perhaps. Will everyone? No, they won't. And that's why there's only 1% of 1% at the top of whatever company you're working with who get to the top, because there's that word coachable again. They're coachable and they're
Yep.
willing to do the do. And I don't think it has to do with I'm more outgoing than you, or I'm shy, you're not. It has nothing to do with that, because whoever invited you into your company will teach you the skills, will teach you how to create that mindset, because whatever we do is between our two ears, right?
Yep.
But you have to be willing to be coachable, and you have to be consistent. I actually have this note on my desk. It says, my job is to help my new leaders be confident, independent, and successful. But their job is to be confident, independent, and successful. You
Yeah, I
can't do
love
by
that.
yourself. I think I got that from Richard Brooke, probably, because I'm still coaching with Richard.
I love that. And so when you say do the do, and you need, you like, and I 100% agree with you. You know, whenever I present, I will start by saying to people, what I'm about to teach you is really important, but knowledge is not power. It's only potential power. It's not till you use that knowledge and you implement it that you get the results from it.
Right.
But when you say doing the do and taking action, and only 1% of people are going to do that. You're not talking, though, because you also made a comment before that the beauty of this business is it fits in the nooks and the crannies of your life. And I love that. That's a really great way of looking at it. But you're not talking about you have to work more hours than everyone else and you have to slog it out harder than everyone else in order to be successful. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is there has to be an intention.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big part of it. If you have an intention that you're going to create a successful business, and then you go out there, you go out into the world, you show up differently when you have that intention. I mean, I went out yesterday. I went to the mall. I built my business 100% with a cold market. That's how I built my business, because my family and friends said no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I leave the house, I always have an intention. I want to serve others. I can help people with my product. I can help people with my business. People aren't driving around these days worrying about a pimple on their chin or an extra 10 pounds, right? They're worrying about the fact that they can't put food on the table for their family.
Yeah.
So I have something that can serve others. So when I talk about doing this in the nooks and crannies, you walk out the door with an intention to help people and serve people, then you can transform somebody else's life. Then you can build this business. You don't have to stay home and, call, for 5 hours, picking up the phone and calling people. You meet people everywhere you go out and about. I just gave someone an example of my products at a new doctor's office I went to this morning, because that's what we do. Is that kind of what you meant?
Yeah, I love that. And actually, it sort of leads me to another question, which I think you've somewhat answered just there, which is, when you go out there intentionally, what are some of the key activities for you that, if someone was listening to this and they're like, okay, but what can I do? What's going to get me results? What would you say are some of the activities that you've done in your business and that you still do in your business that to this day you think are important for you to be successful and constantly grow? And you've just mentioned having samples on you all the time to give to people, but how do you even have those conversations? What does that look like? That's a few questions there.
So first, let's step back to that morning routine again, because I'm a big believer in affirmations and the law of attraction. Because if I'm looking for someone and they're looking for something, we're going to find each other, right? That's the law of attraction. So in the morning, when I do my affirmations, and I have affirmations in several different categories, finances, business, relationships, emotional health. So in my business affirmations, I attract people who are excited to hear from me. When you start that day with the intention and affirmation, you go out with the intention of meeting people, and then to be a listener. I know I've heard on your podcast you talk about listening and how important that is, to listen to what people's needs are. So when I see someone who's yawning or tired, I say, I have something that might help you have some more energy. When I ask if I'm out and about at a store and someone's waiting on me, or at a restaurant, I'll ask them, how long have you worked here? Do you like what you do? And then I talk about this in my book. I use the words in my business. And if someone says, I hate my job, I say, I'm so blessed. I love what I do. In my business, I'm blessed to have a job that, I love, or I'm so blessed to have a business that I love. And then if you say in my business, they'll come back to you and say, what's your business? And then there's a great opportunity for you to speak to them.
Yep.
I'm always giving people compliments, but they have to be real compliments. You have to be authentic. So if there's someone who I'm talking to who doesn't have great energy, I'm not going to say, I love your energy, right? Someone has acne, I'm not going to say, you have beautiful skin, what are you using? You have to be authentic. But when you listen to what their needs are, there's a good chance that you can bring up what you have to offer them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Really, some really powerful things in there that are so simple and yet make such a big difference, right?
Absolutely. And it starts with what you think about before you walk out the door.
Yeah. And the affirmation side of things, I want to come back to that for a second, because I think, there's so much out there about affirmations, gratitude journaling, and people that are not currently doing this. I know a lot of our listeners have started doing it since they've been listening to the podcast, and they've heard, I think every leader that I have come in here, or every successful individual that I have come in here and talk about their business, is someone who either does gratitude of some sort or has a form of affirmations that they use, but it's always about mindset. Where is your head at? And the really interesting thing about that is, I was talking about this analogy with our students inside of our memberships a few months ago, and I was talking about the words that you use are training your subconscious mind, and they're training you in your behavior. And I use the example of running. You might like this one because this was something I accidentally stumbled across about 10 years ago when I went on my own health journey. And I had this goal where I wanted to become a runner. And so I would say, well, I'm going to be a runner. I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to be a runner. One day I'm going to be a runner. And it was always a tomorrow thing. It was, I'm going to be. It was never a part of who I was, because it was a future wish or dream. But one day I changed my wording, and I changed it because actually someone I really love and trust said to me, you need to identify as what it is that you want to become in order to become that thing, because you'll start behaving that way. I was like, but I'm not a runner. And he goes, yes, you are. You are a runner because you have an intention to become one. So he said, just start saying, I am a runner. I was like, but I've never run more than 100 meters. And he said, yes, but if you identify as a runner, you're going to start doing that, right? So I started to get up in the morning going, I'm a runner. And of course, it just felt natural then, and almost like I needed to get out and go for a little run. And so I started, hydrating better and eating better and, thinking about my day like a runner would, even though I was only just starting on that journey. And I think that's a lot about what affirmations are, is changing the way you behave, because you're identifying as something that you are intending to become, even though it may not. Because affirmations don't always feel like a good fit straight away, do they?
No, they don't. As a matter of fact, when people have shared with me their affirmations, many times they do say, I will. And I said, no, you have to say it in the present tense. I am, as you were told. And when you say I am, even if it feels uncomfortable, there's a great book called Train Your Brain by Dana Wild. And she talks about how you can kind of add an amendment to your affirmation. You can say, I am a successful network marketing professional. And then you can say, until now, I haven't felt successful, but today I'm truly successful. I mean, you can kind of play around with that. But I love to say affirmations in the present tense. And that's something fun that I've been doing recently, since I have a new friend called ChatGPT. My good friend Chat. So I've been I did it right before the beginning of the year, because I wanted to create a vision for 2025 for myself. Yes. And I wrote down all the things that I wanted to achieve in 2025. I wrote it all down, put it in ChatGPT, and I said, can you please create a vision story for 2025 for me? And it came out with the most beautiful vision story. I tweaked it a bit. Interestingly enough, Chat said, you. And I said, please put this in the present tense. Yeah. So I have this, I have a wonderful, I even have a little one here on my desk. I have like it's an abbreviated version of it, because the mind is so powerful, because what we think about, we bring about, right? And Absolutely. If you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right.
Yep. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes. I love that. And I love that you've got a vision story. We actually, I'm going to be doing this morning, one of the things we do with our new members, everyone who comes in, is a business breakthrough call. And it's where I talk to them about setting their goals, but creating a vision around what they want, not just their business life, but all of the areas of their life to look like, and actually designing their life. We talk about design your life. You've got the ability to do that. And we get them to write a story. It's one of the best parts of the whole session. It's so much fun. But I love that you do that. I actually did this for the very first time, and it felt really weird, probably 7 years ago. And I went back and I looked at my original one, because I'm constantly changing mine all of the time. Every month I go in and edit it, because my life is changing all the time, and my dreams and desires change too. So for me, it's like a living story. And I went back and looked at my original one from 7 years ago recently, and I have ticked, without realizing it, nearly everything off there, almost as perfectly as though I was predicting my future. It's bizarre. Down to the fruit trees I have in my garden now, that
I love that.
It wasn't an intentional thing. I bought a house that happened to have the fruit trees that I talked about in my story. I had the labor with my daughter that I recently have. Most of our listeners know we've now got a 1-year-old. That whole pregnancy journey and the labor, I'd forgotten this story I'd written, by the way. But
Wow.
I talked about it 7 years ago in my story. I didn't even know if I was going to have any more kids. And I look back and I'm like, wow, that's what it felt like. That's what it looked like. That's amazing. How does that happen? But it's really powerful.
It's so powerful. I love that. I love the fact that you continue to go back to review it, because I have my very first affirmations. The very first book I read the first book I read when I came into Arbonne was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Dr. Susan Jeffers. I referred to that in my book. But the second book was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I followed his formula at first for how to create an affirmation. But I love the fact that you're continuing to redo it and you're writing your story with people you're working with, because it's so powerful. It's so powerful. Vision boards, affirmations, that they really, truly work. And when you can see them, they come to fruition. It's like, wow. Even my speaking on your podcast was part of my vision, a few months ago. I'm going to be speaking on podcasts. I want to get the word out to other companies about my book. And here I am speaking with you, which is just a blessing.
Yeah, I think it's very important to look back. I think it was actually one of possibly the episode that you were talking to me about earlier before we kicked off. I talked about one of the most important things that I've learned over the years is, and it was actually from another podcast guest, Oscar Trimboli, who's the deep listening expert. And Oscar talked about, he's actually a marathon trainer. So he's a coach. And I asked him what was one of his most important strategies for growing business and growing in life. And he said, is turning around and seeing how far you've come. He said, think about it. When you run a marathon, you're constantly thinking about how many more kilometers, how far have I got to go? Where have I got to go? How am I going to do the rest? He said, but Sam, when you go running, as a coach right now, I'm going to tell you every now and again, I want you to turn around, run backwards for just a few moments and look at how far you've come. Because suddenly I've got a whole 7Ks left. Feels a lot easier when you go, but I've run 20 odd Ks or 30 odd Ks or 10 Ks or whatever it might be, depending on how far you're going. When you're in business and when you're, growing in life and you look back, and this was the whole point with looking back on previous affirmations and my previous life story was, how far have I come? Because it makes it a lot easier to deal with the battles of today when I can see what I have fought through in the past and what that's looked like. And so,
100%.
that turning around is so valuable.
It's so valuable. And the thing is that many, many people who don't embrace personal development miss that. They don't get how important that is to acknowledge. One of the things that my new accountability partner and I are doing every night, or she told me about this, I learned this from her, is that I have a little journal right next to my bed. And not only do I write down the things I want to get done the next day, so I can tick them off when I get them done. I'm saying tick because you said tick, I say check. But I also put a little heart right next to today's date. And I put all the things that I did well that day, because I want to acknowledge myself for what I did well, because we don't do that enough. We're so busy, looking at things that we haven't done. We're busy comparing ourselves to other people. It's like, friends, we're only here on this planet for a visit. Embrace it and enjoy it and love what you did that day so you can have an even better next day, right?
Yeah. Yep. So powerful. And I want to talk just for a moment about the personal development journey, because you have absolutely, just from what you've said so far, we can tell for sure that you are, very invested in your own personal growth and learning. But personal development is kind of like this, how long is a piece of string? It can be a very costly thing, can be very time consuming, and there are so many options out there. I'd love to hear from you of all of the things that you've done, from books you've read to mentors to courses that you've done. What do you think for you has been the most powerful personal development find or training or reading that you've done that's impacted you the most over the years?
Well, first of all, I didn't find myself in a 12-step program in Overeaters Anonymous. I think it was a big part of my journey to personal development, learning that I did have a disease. Compulsive overeating was a disease. So that was, for me, really important. But then when I got into this industry, then I also work with a therapist. She was amazing. She actually is the person who taught me, now it's coming back to me. She taught me about the power of visualizing what you'd like to become, part of those affirmations. There's a book called Creative Visualizations by Shakti Gawain, and it's all about, that was the beginning of my affirmation journey. Now, I'm thinking about that now. It was way before I was even in Arbonne. More recently, Richard Brooke is one of my wonderful, I love Richard. He's a great mentor. And he wrote a book called Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire.
Yes.
And that book is transformational. My friend and I went out to a retreat with he and his wife, Kimmy, and we spent 6 days in Lanai, gorgeous Hawaii, really diving deep into that book. And it's so important that my upline and dear friend and I are using that book for a retreat we're going to be running in a couple of months. That's a book about your vision, your belief. It's just powerful. So Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire, I would recommend that for sure. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, another great book. I love that book because we all know the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do, right?
Yes.
So that's another fabulous book. And then the grandfather of all books, I believe, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's a book that I have earmarked for 32 years already.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is one of those ones that you come back to again and again, right? Because probably one of my favorites in that space would be How to Win Friends and Influence People. And we continue to hand that one to our kids and come back to it. And I think, that some of those older books have just got so much power in them, and I think we can overlook them for all of the cool new stuff.
Yes. And also, I'm a real believer in the law of attraction. I listen to Abraham Hicks every day. I listen to a recording. I love that. I love their message, and also Wayne Dyer. I always pop something on by Wayne Dyer. Actually, reading right now, The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer, and it's the third time I'm reading that book.
Yeah, awesome. And so just coming back a little moment, if you were to start your business out again, I know you've been through many transitions in the world around you. Like you said, that you started at a time that was, no internet. It was face-to-face. It was cold market. If you were starting your business again right now, what would you do differently?
Well, I think I would embrace personal development sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't work. I don't want to say I wouldn't work quite as hard, but I would have worked smarter. I would have been more intentional about what I was doing. And so I think that for me, that would have been a difference. And I think I would have jumped. See, I didn't have any money to spend on retreats at that point. I barely could afford to go to our company conference. As a matter of fact, I didn't go to our first company conference because I didn't have the money. But I would have read more. And I would have embraced that morning routine sooner if I knew about that great morning routine. Hal Elrod, he has his Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, Elrod. And then he has one specifically, Miracle Morning for Network Marketers, which basically breaks down 5 things to do every morning to help you start your day.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. So many books here, and you know that I've got the question at the end, of course, about what's your favorite book. So we might have to jump over that one because I feel like we've got a whole list. We'll put all of these in the show notes, by the way. So if you are listening, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't catch that one. We'll put them all in the show notes. So everything you've mentioned, Donna, we'll capture. So if you had someone sitting in front of you right now, and they were trying to grow a business in the network marketing space, what would you say are 3 key strategies that are really important for them to adopt in order to be successful in this industry and grow their business?
Okay, 3. There's my word again, be coachable and listen to the people who came before you. And by the way, just as a side note, if the person who brought you into your company isn't succeeding or isn't serious or isn't treating this like a business, but treating it more like a hobby, just go up. There's always someone up that you can go up to say, hey, I want to do this. Please tell me what to do. So that's one. I would also make sure that family, friends, whoever was around me, I would let them know what I was doing and invite them to support me. And if they chose not to support me, I would continue anyway. I mean, too many times people will listen to those around, the naysayers, and it's really important to put on your blinders, let people know what you're doing, be excited about it, but don't let them make the decision for you.
Yeah,
so that's another thing. And the other thing is I would not prejudge other people, which is what I did in the beginning. Don't say no for someone else before they say no to you, because we have no idea what's going on with people out there. So be brave, have courage, open your mouth, learn the verbiage that your upline would recommend, or your sponsor, whoever invited you into the business, how to invite people to take a look at what you're doing, your business. But too many times we'll take a look, we'll make our list of 10 names, 20 names, 50 names, whatever, and we'll say, no, they're too successful, they have money already, they would never be interested. I would recommend people not do that, and I think I did that in the beginning. I said no for them before they said no to me.
Yeah, that's such a great piece of advice. And another really amazing trainer in this space is Andrea Wise, who wrote the book Go for No. We've had her on the podcast as well, and she
Yes.
talks about the no's being the game. Chase the no, because everyone who's successful in sales, any kind of sales, understands it's a numbers game. You cannot get a yes without getting a no at some point. So if you chase the no's, you embrace them, you're actually excited by it rather than fearful about it. And yeah, I love that. But also don't take it personally, right? If someone says no, they're not saying no to you. They're just saying no in that moment to the opportunity or the product that you've presented them with, but it doesn't mean that they love or like you any less.
Exactly. And oftentimes we don't realize, especially in today's day and age, how many of us have a message on our phone, a text message that we didn't respond to because we're busy, right?
Yeah.
So we can't take it personally if someone doesn't reach back to us. We have to continue to go back, follow up. There's fortune in the follow up, of course. And in my book, I talk about how how I got a speaking role on General Hospital, and that was a soap opera here in the United States. And that was a story that I actually told Richard Brooke, how I got a speaking role by continually going back to the casting director. I kept going back to her, pleasantly persistent, until she finally watched the video or the tape that I gave her. And when I told Richard that story, he said, you should write a book. And that's how the book came to be. But we have to be pleasantly persistent. We can't take the notes personally. And we have to realize that this is a numbers game. I'm in a challenge right now, 4 asks a day. And you know what? We have more names on our phone than we can imagine. Social media, we can find 4 people a day. We just have to just do the do, stay out of the results, and enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I love that. I love the be pleasantly persistent. I think that's such a beautiful and simple way of approaching it that anyone can do, right?
Exactly.
So good. Now, I just want to quickly touch on time management. Again,
Yes.
I know one of the greatest challenges of people in this industry and our students and those that we get the honor and privilege to work with is, of course, time. Many of them are also working a job, especially when they start in this industry. Many of them are parents. And as you said, the business is kind of fitting in the nooks and the crannies. So can you give a couple of tips for you that have worked from a time management perspective to be able to work your business productively when you are busy with lots of other things on the go? I mean, you had little kids when you started out.
Yes, I sure did. So I created a little document that said chunk your time, and it was just basically across the top, Monday through Sunday, and across the side, the 6 a.m. all the way to 9 o'clock at night. And I had the people I worked with, I had them first put in the must do's, the things that they actually had to do first. That if they worked a full-time job, they had to mark that out. If they were taking the kids to school, they had to mark that out. So they got to take a look, when can I actually do this business, right?
Yeah.
And so when they take a look, and then they say, I guess I can do it, Saturday morning and Sunday evening. I could work, and they give me the times that they could work. So if you can chunk your time and take a look, when can I do this business? But then the most important thing is, because your calendar is your boss. And if you're not true to that calendar and you say, well, I'll do my business on Saturday morning for 2 hours and Sunday evening for 3, or whatever you decide. If you don't do it, then normally you get fired. If your boss would fire you if you don't do the work, right? So chunking your time, I think, is important when it comes to time management. And then you can do this because we're living in a world today with a phone in our hand at all times. It's very easy when you're in the carpool line to message someone. I did that when I was at the doctor's office today. I sent 3 little texts out today when I was waiting for the chiropractor today. I think that we believe in our mind that it takes a lot more time than it does.
Yeah.
The follow-up is important as well, but if you can chunk your time, I think it's really important. And the other thing that I'm thinking about, I know you didn't ask me this, but I think it's important along this line. Let's say you decide, I'm going to make phone calls for the next half an hour. And so you say to your partner, your kids, your friend, whoever listen, it's 8 o'clock. I'll be finished at 8:30. I'm going to come out and we'll, have a glass of wine. We'll play Monopoly, whatever. We're going to do that at 8:30 when I'm finished. I get off the phone when I finish my work. And the work in our business is texting and calling people. So at 8:30 comes by quarter to 9 o'clock, and you don't come out of your room. The people who love you, who you're doing this business to support and help, are going to resent the fact that you're not staying true to your word. So it's really important that you're true to your word, that you work when you say you're going to work, and then when you're not, you don't. Because otherwise, those who love you will not support you. And it's very hard to build a business like this when family and friends are not supporting you. It's not impossible, but it's much harder.
Yeah, that's a really, really powerful piece of advice. And I think it's very easy. It was one of the things actually for me, and, I'm not in direct selling anymore. Obviously, I work in direct selling in a different capacity. But when I started this business, I was one of those people that, because I, like you, am so passionate about what I do. I love what I do. I love the people that we serve. I can get really caught up. When I sit down and I'm at my desk, I can, those conversations with people, the trainings, all of that, I can get really caught up in. And I noticed that, I could sit down at my desk and go, I'm just going to check a couple of emails. And then 3 hours later, I pull myself out of the rabbit hole. And so I actually had to set up a few things for me so that I could separate my business from my family. And when I was working from home, that looked like having a separate office space with a closed door. And I actually set a few things up where I would put on a work outfit to go in there. And then when I walked out, I would take my shoes off. I'd put slippers on or socks on or bare feet or whatever. But it was like a transition, coming to work, leaving work. And then I'd close that door and I wouldn't go back in there until my next hours. Like what you said, I think that's so powerful, that I had scheduled to work. And my family knew I'm going to work at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. And so I would go to work, and I wouldn't do things like laundry or dishes until I finished work, or I went on a lunch break or something like that. Eventually, I actually had to get myself an office out. I'm in an office in town. People say to me all the time, why on earth do you pay to have an office outside of your home? And how do you afford to do that when you're starting out? What I actually did was I contacted a few friends who had local businesses, and I found an accountant friend who had just a spare office in his building. And I just said, could I pay you $50 a week to have that office space and it be mine? I'll set it up like an office. And I'll just come and go, and that will be where I work from. And he said, absolutely, that room is just, and there's so many places out there you could do that with. So many people have got a spare space in their office where you could go to work. And I've seen a lot of people in the direct selling industry do that when they need that separation. And some people really do. And they go to work in an office that they rent off somebody. And I now have my own office, but we moved around to a few different businesses for a time until we had that. But it was a really important part of separating that time out and being present with family. That way, when I walked in the door at night, I was coming home from work.
I love that. And, I have told people over the years, if you're distracted at home, then just say you're going out for a coffee and go to a Starbucks or go to a local coffee shop and sit down and work, because we can do that now. Our business is portable, right? Because it really does make a difference when you can get yourself into that mindset, that I'm working. And then on the other hand, when people who tell me I don't have any names of people, I have no one to talk to. The world is filled with people. Get out, right?
Yeah.
But I love that idea. It's a great idea, though, that you can just ask a friend who has a little room in their office or something where you can get away. I love that.
So many of them out there, and they'd probably look. I never asked the question, but I'm sure there would have been lots of people that would have been happy to give it to me for free had I just asked the question.
Yes. The other thing I'm thinking about, by the way, we're talking about time management, is I'm thinking about like a power hour, like reaching out to people who you work with and say, let's every day from 10 to 11, let's all jump on a Zoom. We don't have to talk to each other. We just know that we're working. And we've done that successfully a lot. We have our little power hours.
Yeah.
And again, you're committed to working your business during that hour. And you just let the world know, I'm not doing anything else right now. You don't pick up your phone. You don't do anything but do your work.
Yeah. Yep. Really powerful. I know a lot of people that do that, and it's really successful. So absolutely. All right. I've got my fun questions here, but
Okay,
just before I get
ready?
into them, Donna, I would love for you to tell our readers a little bit about your amazing book. So You
Okay,
Said Yes.
thank you.
You have, I'm sure you got a copy there. I didn't get one in the mail in time because it does take a little bit of time to get here to Australia, but I'm super excited to get it in my hands. So, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about this? And huge congratulations. I'm a little bit
Thank
jealous, I've
you.
got to admit, because I've
Yeah,
been wanting to write a book for many years and haven't got there. But well
well, you
done.
will.
That's
You will. You
awesome.
will. And I'm really proud. My son-in-law designed it for me. He's really a great graphic artist, so he designed it. So the book is So You Said Yes, The Wiser Way to Network Marketing. There's two places you can, well, a few places. You can get it on my website, donnajweiser.com. And if you buy it on my website, well, actually here, if in the United States, you can buy it on my website, or in Canada, because I donate a portion of every book sold to Scleroderma Foundation, which is a charity that's really near and dear to my heart. But after the book was put on Audible, we have it on Audible as well. We've decided to partner with Amazon. So for my friends who are in Australia and the United Kingdom and now in Canada, you can buy the book on Amazon too now, which is, I'm really proud of that.
Amazing, amazing. So we will put the link to that in the show notes, of course, so you can get a copy, and I highly recommend that you do. Do you want to tell us just briefly, what is the book about? What can they expect
Yes,
if they
yes.
get a copy?
And by the way, you can see it's a very, very easy read. Literally, you can read this in a couple of days. And the book is a combination of mindset, the mindset of building a network marketing business, and the mechanics, things you need to do. And what I've heard since it's been out for a year from some of my associates who are in network marketing, that they really love to give this book to their new distributors
Mm-hmm.
and to someone who's perhaps just achieved like the first level of rank in their company, because it's a really great book for someone who said, so you said yes, and you decided to build a business. And it's really about my journey over the past, 30 years, 30 plus years, and the tips that I've learned throughout the years that supported my business, and the things that I didn't do well that I learned to do.
Yeah.
And that's the book. It's quite simple.
I love it. That's amazing. Well, we will put that in the show notes for
Thank
sure,
you.
and make sure that you grab a copy. If you are in the US, of course, go to Donna's website so you can also help her support that amazing charity as well. So, a couple of quick questions for you. I feel like this one's a little null and void. Have you got any more in the tank here? I've got this. This is always my favorite question. What's your favorite book for our accelerator book list? I feel like you've probably rattled like 8 to 10 off. You got any more there?
I think because the one I'm reading right now, I'm really loving it again. The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. It's
Yep.
just such a powerful book. I love that.
Yep. Awesome. And if you could have a superpower, Donna, any superpower, what would that be and why?
I think I would like to be a mind reader.
Ooh, I feel like that would have a lot of downsides to it.
I know, but I'd rather know, it's kind of like when we reach out to people in our business, it's like we want to get them either give me a yes or give me a no. I don't want to have a maybe. I just want to know so I can check you off my list. So if I'm talking to somebody and they're in their head, they're going, what is she saying? I don't want to deal with her. I want to know that. And if they're going, yeah, I love her. She's great. I want to work with her. I want to know that too. So I'd like to be a mind reader.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a great one. And what's your favorite quote? I know you've got a few there.
Yeah, my favorite question, my daughter put it on a really pretty artwork for me. If nothing changes, nothing changes. That's my favorite
Oh, I
quote.
love that. Yes, that's brilliant. So good. And last but not least, if you could go back in time, Donna, and say one thing to your past self, what would that be?
Love yourself.
Ooh, good one. Yeah. I think, that's such a big one, I think, for the women listening into this, though, right? It's we tend to be our harshest critics, and we would never treat other people the way that we often treat ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And Donna, thank you so, so much for joining me today. It's been such an honor and a privilege to hear a bit more about your story, but also I really appreciate you sharing your incredible wisdom with our listeners. And I'm sure everyone's got heaps out of this session today, so many actionable steps. But again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. And
Thank you. You're
yeah.
wonderful. I really, I think I love your energy. You're amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And after what you said before, I know that's true, right? You don't give out false compliments. So thank you. We've really enjoyed chatting with you, and I know our listeners will have loved listening on in today. So again, thank you so much for tuning on in, everybody. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with us and choosing our podcast. Of course, if you love this episode, if you got something out of it, please share it with a friend, someone else in the industry that you feel this could benefit. This podcast is something that loads of resources go into, but we provide it for free so that it's something that we can use to give back and grow this incredible industry that, as Donna so wisely said before, literally changes lives every day. So thanks to all of you for helping make this possible, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the podcast again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.